What's up with my IP family? It's your boy LAPA coming through with another video. You guys already know what it is, man. For those of you guys that know me, man, I did a 15-year prison term in Cali. Level fours, all that good, all that stuff, good stuff, bad stuff. And I'm just here to tell some stories. You know what I'm saying? With a little element of caution for the youngsters and all that. And as you can tell by the good old caption, that thumbnail, man. COs, are they all bad? You know, and as always, man, it's just the caption that I say right now may not necessarily be the one that I put on the thumbnail. But here we go. So I'm gonna take you all the way back, man, to Kern Valley State Prison, New Delano, as is known, level 4 180, A yard, active yard there. Before all that stuff transpired, me going to the side and things like that. So I was there, man, and you know, when I got there, I had just gotten out the shoe, did a 3-year shoe. I had an option to go either there, not there, but like Pelican Bay. They were actually taking people to Pelican. They were accepting requests to go to Pelican Bay. And if you ask for Pelican Bay, the committee, CSR, all that, you would go to Pelican Bay. And you know what's crazy? Like, people out here, I did a video on the Pelican Bay syndrome. Everybody that's been to Pelican Bay, they think they're big and bad and shit. But in reality, that Pelican Bay is not the most notorious, dangerous prison in California, in my opinion. Yes, that's where the power is concentrated at. I mean, with the organizations, that's where they house them all in the shoe and all that, or before the hunger strikes and they got kicked out. That's where they were warehousing them at. There in Corcoran Shoe. So I had an opportunity to go to Pelican Bay, and the only reason I molded that option was because my daughter was born and raised in Oregon. And at the time, I hadn't gotten no visit, you know, and I never ended up getting a visit. I was always either, the few times that I got a chance to get a visit, I was either in the shoe, in the hole, getting in trouble, whatnot. So for those of you that know, Pelican Bay is in Crescent City, right near the border of Oregon. It would have been a two and a half hour drive for my daughter to come visit me, right? And at the time, that's what was on my mind, you know, as opposed to her driving whoever her caretakers at the time, her grandparents and her aunt. Imagine the difference between driving 2 hours to 16. You know what I'm saying? 16, 12, depending on what prison in Cali I was going to go to. Because I wanted to go down south. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go down south. It wasn't an option, but that's where I would want to do my time. So the only 180s at the time that were available to me were Salinas Valley. I mean, I could request it. That doesn't mean I'm going to get it, right? Salinas Valley, New Delano, Tehachapi had already been closed for the shoe. What else? New Folsom, which is further up north, you know what I'm saying? And then the one nearest to Pelican Bay is a High Desert State Prison, you know, and I'm not going to ask to go to High Desert, you know what I'm saying? Like, that prison was cracking. So, anywho, albeit when I got out the shoe, that was after the hunger strikes and everything, the peace treaty was in effect, or the cessation of hostilities, the end to all hostilities was already in place. So, but it was still new. It was still new. And even though we had heard good things and everybody's getting along, things like that, you still don't want to go to prisons that are, if you're trying to make it out, they have that reputation of violence, you know? So New Delano was always known as a prison at the time where programming, things like that. Yeah, cracks, shit like that. You know, the last 2 murders at the time, Norte versus Sur, had happened in that prison. So it's not necessarily a walk in the park, you know, but it was a prison known to be a Cadillac 180. If you want to compare 180s, you know what I'm saying? No, anywho, so, you know, the lockdown thing had changed. No more fucking indeterminate lockdowns, 2 weeks for a pegada. No, 72. It turned into 72 hours for any stabbing, if that. So just to give you some backdrop, so I was molding that option, Pelican Bay to get a visit, or New Delano to eventually get out. So I chose New Delano, Kern Valley State Prison. They were closing down the shoes at the time. I was one of the last batches in 2016. When I got out the shoe, my MERD was already going to come up. And for those of you that don't know what MERD is, that's minimum earliest release date if you're doing a shoe term. So yeah, that was coming up, and I chose New Delano. You know, I was anxiously awaiting because they could have sent me anywhere. You know, for example, you give you two options to pick from. Oh, I picked this prison, that prison. It doesn't mean you're going to get those two prisons. Most of the time, you get the first or the second, but sometimes they send you to a different whole different prison that you didn't even ask for, and they do it based on capacity. Whoever has an opening, they'll stick you on the fucking bus if they need to get rid of you. So, you know, at the time, thank God, boom, they sent me to Kern Valley. When the Kern Valley, I was excited. I was like, man, cool. Hell yeah, I've always wanted to come into this prison. So I get there to a yard, and sure enough, I get to the most political, most active yard that you could have. So I get there, man. The senores are on the yard, Emeros, Aryan Brotherhood. We had a BGF there, you know, but they had no NFs there. You know, they had taken them out of New Delano, and that's that. So I get there, man, and, you know, everything was cool, man. I ran into, and I'm going to do some other videos later on Todd Asker, Frank Clement, Aryan Brotherhood dudes. I did a video on Popeye from Heartbeats. I'll probably redo it again since I did it on my last channel. You know, a lot of the mafia members that I met and I worked for and I did time with. So I'm going to take you to a time I was assisting Popeye from Heartbeats at this point. And that's all I'll say on him. And I was in a law library. I was working in a law library. I had a few individuals in there working with me. But the law library was the midpoint, or at least the outside point that connected, along with the program office, education, and then law library, things like that, canteen that connected the upper yard to the lower yard. So I was on the lower yard at the time, but I was a law library clerk. And what we were doing at the time, man, as assisting, anything from fierros to cell phones to clavo, things like that. It's a lot of responsibility, man. It was a lot of responsibility for me. I didn't have life. You know, like I said, I was doing the 15 years. This is during my 15-year term. I was doing the 15 years, and I was close to the house, man. I only had like less than 3 years, 2 years left, and I had 2 strikes. You know, when I signed my case, all that shit, and I was playing with fire every single time. But I'm Sureño. If they ask me to assist, they call upon me with certain things, I'm gonna assist. It is what it is. It's mandatory. We're soldados, right? So at any given a moment, meaning, so we used to have big batches coming. We knew exactly when it was gonna come because Popeye used to tell me, "Hey, we got this coming." Boom, boom, boom. We were the ones that were responsible, taking it from the upper yard to the lower yard and vice versa. Lower yard to the upper yard, depending on who. Yes, it could have been miscellaneous transfers. Let's just say a senor bought a cell phone had a cell phone coming from the lower yard, or Clavo coming from the lower yard. Boom, 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 boom. Us in the law library, other dudes too, but we were there too. Man, it was a big responsibility, man. Aside from us potentially getting caught up, if a CO tries to snatch you up, and you know you got something on you, and they try to find it, boom, you gotta take off on them. You gotta take off on them. It is what it is. So you could catch life at any given moment. You could catch 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're in a position like that, you're in the front lines logistically. You know, when it comes to logistics, and them just keeping the whole ecosystem going and churning and turning, you know, things have to get done. So the big batches were the ones where, you know, X amount of phones, Clavo, Fieros, whatever, were going from the upper yard to the lower yard, like I said. There was only a couple times a month, for the most part, where that was going to happen. And the way we used to do it, and look, all this has already been said, man. I ain't over here exposing games, things like that. This was years ago. There's nothing I'm going to say on here that, IGI doesn't already know. If anything, I'm telling you this story because you'll trip out. So on this one given time, we had a batch ready to go to the upper yard, to Popeye, and we had several phones, Clavo, everything, and I had a stash spot in the law library, and I used to do it in days, and not the same day, but I'll get it one day, then I'll do it the next day. Boom, from the lower yard or the upper yard, bam. Then the next day I'll do it to the upper yard. Logistically, it was a big responsibility. If you get caught, if you lose all that Clavo on the phones and everything, aside from me getting life and shit like that, if I'm in the wrong at any point, I could still get green lighted and be in trouble with the senores. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know who the fuck. Obviously, there's always gonna be a fucking snitch in that motherfucker, and that's one thing nobody could ever say about me. Dropping dimes, dropping kites and shit, and that shit had been happening because of a senor, and that's a different story for a different time. He was pressing up on a lot of dudes, and dudes were just dropping kites to try to get him snatched up. But that, like I said, that's a story for a different time. So I go to the law library, man, expecting to go in there, get the badge, boom, nervous as shit. And I had certain dudes in place, and had another camarada that was working with me right there, assisting me, ready to go, boom, boom, boom. So everything was in place. All we had to do is go in there the next day, boom, take it out from wherever it was, which was a trash can. We had it in a trash can. Usually we had it in another spot. But like I said, when I finished work that day, I took it out from the stash spot in the law library, put it in the trash can. Everybody knew after the janitor, the camaradas that were sweeping, changing out trash bags and all that, they knew not to touch shit. So it could have been anybody, could have been one of them, who knows. But we had it in the trash can, so all we had to do was go in there, boom, pick that up, send it on its way from a camarada, from my education to the upper yard, and that was that. And so we went in there, man. As soon as we go in there, man, bro, IGI rose up. For those of you that don't know what IGI is, who they are, it's the Institutional Gang Investigators, Institutional Gang Unit, whatever the fuck, ISU. They're the ones that are cracking down. They investigate shit. They crack down on gangs, the organizations that be, and things like that. So when I seen that, my heart dropped. I was like, fuck, it's a wrap. It's a wrap, man, because we had fierros in their phones and at least 3 pedazos of fucking carga. You know what I'm saying? At least fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like 62 grams, 50 something, 62 grams and up. Probably more than 3 pedazos, 3 pedazos. It was a lot, man. It was a big chunk. I'm just estimating. And that was all. That would have been a big hit. For me, I would have caught life. The homie had life anyways. So I go in there, man. They pull us out, boom, 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 snatch us up against the wall. We didn't even get a chance, man. And the whole time I'm up against the wall, and I don't have nothing on me specifically for this day because, I used to go strapped up for the most part, even though there's metal detectors. For those of us that were regular workers, the cops, the COs used to actually let us, they wouldn't even pat us down or nothing because we were regulars. They're like, hey, go ahead, go through. Anybody else, they'll pat them down, blah, 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 whatever. Education movement, gang of dudes, yeah, they'll pat them down, do all that shit, whatever, if that was necessary. So I'm in there, I'm outside, man, and I'm fucking stressed the fuck out. And I'm like, damn, it's a wrap. I'm going to the hole. And I'm just looking for the opportunity to see if they try to press up on me with something, confront me with something, whatever. But since I don't have nothing on me, it's not like I could take off on them because I don't know what they're going to find. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping that they don't fucking look in the trash can. And boom, 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 everything happens. They let us go. And I was confused. I was just like in shock. I was like, these motherfuckers didn't check the trash can. Like, I was like, IGI For those of you guys that know, IGI check every single little crevice. Even right here. Take an example of this car. They'll look in this little button right here. They'll look through everything. They motherfuckers don't miss shit. Obviously, they went in there for a reason. They had already had a kite dropped. They were going there to find whatever they were going to find. And they were not going to stop. They were in there for over an hour looking. They were fucking looking, bro. They made a mess. You know how many books we had to put back? Went in there, boom. We're all, we're looking at each other like, what the fuck? Damn, like, we were both fucking panicked, bro. Like, straight up. I don't give a fuck how hard you are. It's easy to go out there and stab the shit out of somebody, shoot somebody, kill somebody for us. But that type of shit is like, damn, it's adrenaline busting, you know? Come to find out, CO that was working at the time, he was cool as shit. You know, he had been approached, from my understanding, from those senores and things like that, to bring in Clavo, things like that. I'm not going to say his name because I want to keep his name in my heart forever because, you know, at the time he's probably already retired because he was waiting for retirement. He was cool as shit, man. He was cool as shit, but he was CO, but he was cool. He actually used to let motherfuckers on the back get touched up. But his whole thing was, as long as it's just a quick little check, beat down, boom. That's all, you know. Don't go over here stabbing motherfuckers and shit like that. So he was old school, man. He was from down south. I think from, anywho, I don't want to say too much on him. But he used to let us get away with shit to the point where one day, this is how I knew he was cool as shit before I even was confided in when I started working in the law library. Somebody slid a couple of papeles a carga underneath the law library door. I guess they knew, but I didn't know. In front of him, I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing, bro? You know? And he looks at me, he's like, and he just walks away. So he wouldn't trip on us on shit like that, but he wasn't going to fuck up his pension. He wasn't going to fuck up his retirement money, nothing like that. So while he would let us get away with shit and he was old school like that, and your business is your business, you know what I'm saying? I ain't no fucking punk, nothing like that type shit. At the same time, he wasn't going to assist us in furthering our cause. So my point with that is, to give you the background, this dude literally comes up to me. I think, so my shift was 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. In that shift, close to the end, this dude comes and hands me the trash can with the clavo and everything in there. He's like, hey, boom, don't let it happen again. He caught wind. He knew IGIs. See, the IGIs, this wasn't the first time that IGI had come in there to do a random search. The random searches were usually faster. They would go in, just pat us down, boom, boom, 10, 15 minutes, and they would put us back in there. Just to test the waters, to keep us on our toes. This day they came, because they took over an hour, like I said, they came for a reason. They were on business. So he used to talk to IGI, bullshit with them. Hi, well, there's fellow COs. And, man, so that's how, I'm assuming that's how he caught wind. Went in there, he snatched it up before they hit the fucking law library, because he's the one that had the keys to the education. He's the one that's going to let him in. And he took it, boom, took it to the back. When they were gone, boom, boom, gave it back to us. So although he wasn't involved in bringing shit in, things like that, he had a lot of respect for the organization members, especially on the M medals. And, man, he saved my ass that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to him. He knows who he is. I'm sure, like, that there's going to be other COs like, oh, that's some crazy shit, this and that. But, not everybody that's doing that type of shit has a choice sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's like, yeah, I delved, I slanged, I did all that shit. Some motherfuckers are trying to get home. You know what I'm saying? But we're still going to do what we need to do. But he saved our ass that day. So my point is, not all COs were bad. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers had rapport with them. Obviously there's other COs that used to bring in dope and all that shit. And that's for the history books. But that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed the story, man. Shout out to him. Hopefully he's retired right now doing his thing. And, that's how I almost got life in that place, man. And it would have been all bad. And that goes to my story. I'll probably retell my story on here because I know some of you guys know it, but not all of you know it. And that's the story for next time. Like I said, with that being said, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.